Welcome to a Monday edition of the Yanks Go Yard podcast. I'm Adam Weiner alongside Thomas Carinante. Man, pretty slow weekend. Not much going on, I guess. Series against the Reds, low expectations. Playing the Reds is pretty fun. Oh, wait. Yankees DFA Aaron Hicks on Saturday in the middle of the day, like 2 hours before the game. Neutering 18 hours of conversation that was like, oh, we traded for Greg Allen. That's pretty interesting. I wonder what the corresponding move is there. Willie Calhoun? Sending Jake Bowers down? You send a reliever back? No, it's Aaron Hicks. We're eating $27.5 million or so to send him packing, ending the career of the longest tenured New York Yankee on the current roster. That's true, and it's crazy. So we're going to talk about it today. We're going to talk a little bit about, the good, the bad of Hicks's career. Mostly bad, but only since the extension has it been that bad. What's next for him? Is this the last player on this roster making major money that the Yankees are going to decide they are willing to eat the cash for? Is somebody else on the current roster getting L's buried? And we'll talk about the sweep at large because, by the way, it's fun to win games. And the New York Yankees are now 14-6 in May since they blew that 6-0 lead in Tampa. And we came on the podcast saying, why are we even doing this? What's the point? Today is the day that it sort of breaks, It broke me. I was like, well, I don't want to talk about this, and I do not want to talk about this team. They're 11-3. And they did the same thing to Tampa's Ace. But it does not get better than that. So we'll talk about it all. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Please drop us a sub on the podcast platforms, a like on this video. If you like it, we'll be on YouTube live every Monday, every Thursday, 2 o'clock Eastern. You can find us here now. You can find us here then. Thursday, we'll be right back talking about more Yankees after they start their series with the Baltimore Orioles. And we'll get into the questions. And I think first and foremost, the question in everybody's mind is sort of what Angelo threw into the chat. The Yankees had a lot of opportunities to do this. Why do they do it now? It's not like they're saving significant money by doing it now. And maybe look, we'll get into it. It was obviously the right move. Should have been done in the offseason. Should probably have been done last year. But what's done is done. And Aaron Hicks is no longer a problem on this roster. And Thomas Carinante, you got an offer for the folks, and I think the betting lines may have just shifted a little bit now that Hicks will no longer be a part of the equation.
I wonder. But hey, everyone, this is for the folks in New Jersey and Connecticut. DraftKings is here. We got an awesome limited time promo for all new users who want to head over to DraftKings, either download the app or go to DraftKings.com. If you deposit money and place a $5 or more wager on any sport, you instantly get $150 in bonus bets added to your account, whether you win or lose the bet. Would have had a hell of a weekend if you were betting on the Yankees. You just kept rolling over the money. But all you have to do is when you're signing up, this is for first-time users, don't forget that. You got to use the code Yanks Go Yard when you're at the sign-up page, and you'll redeem the offer. Using that code is a great way to support us and the podcast. We appreciate all the help. Everybody coming in here to comment, reading our content, all that. But here's another way if you want to hit the trifecta, reading, listening, and now gambling. So if you don't yet have a DraftKings account, do us a solid. Head on over there, sign up, use the code YanksGoYard, and place that first bet. Lots of stuff going on, lots of fun bets to make. We can advise, I think. If you have any, hit us up in the chat. We'll let you know. This is for new customers only. Once again, you must be 21 and older and physically present in New Jersey or Connecticut. Please gamble responsibly. If you have a gambling problem and you're in New Jersey, call 1-800-GAMBLER. If you're in Connecticut, call 888-789-7777. This is valid. One offer per customer. Do not forget that. It's a minimum $5 deposit and $5 wager required. Rewards are issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets and expire 7 days after being awarded. So you got to have a hell of a week of gambling. See full terms at DraftKings.com. What were the odds on Aaron Hicks getting released this year? Because we were sitting here, and Angelo's right. We're sitting here. We're wondering when it's going to happen. He has an OPS plus of 4 a couple weeks ago.
He was in the negatives at some point. You're truly like, I don't know how you could be 110% worse than the average baseline player, but he was. There was a time when he was that.
-3.
Yeah.
Crazy. Hey, he got it up to 47 over the last couple weeks. And look, ultimately, the right move. No one's going to argue with it, but funny timing. Once again, you waited out. You let this guy suffer. And I have openly been sympathetic to Hicks, too. It's been terrible for him. At some point, I was saying just play him on the road if you're going to keep him. Don't worry about playing him at home. He could play. You get good part-time reps playing on the road. He doesn't have to get in his own head. Finally, I don't know what happens. Aaron Boone comes up with a solution, integrating him into the lineup over the last couple of weeks, gets his stats up. I think his last 20 at bats, he was batting like 350 and was OPSing over 1,000. And then you make the call. Okay. I'm not going to say you shouldn't make the call there, but just bizarre timing because we had already hit rock bottom. And then I think that rock plowed through the floor and went to the center of the earth, and we witnessed the absolute worst of this situation. The Yankees decided to still hang on for dear life, and then they cut him loose for Greg Allen. Not necessarily going to disagree with that, but you thought a bigger move was coming in the offseason, especially when they said they weren't done after the Carlos Rodon deal. It's like, great, now Hicks is gone. We're going to get another outfielder. Life is good. Turns out they swap fringe major league talent for fringe major league talent. I don't get it, but again, Hicks had to go. I hope he's in a better place where he could start fresh now. I hope this helps close a chapter for the Yankees that's largely been painful. But yeah, it happened, and that certainly overshadowed the discourse of this first 4-game winning streak of the season, and the Yankees have an MLB best record, 14-6 in the month of May. So that health stretch we were sitting here kind of complaining about, the no days off, not too bad.
No, it turns out they're good at that, I guess. Baby, we just keep sending them into 4-game series against the other best teams in the AL East, and that's how you sort it out. I mean, I can't believe that Brian Cashman actually would think that, like, all right, Aaron Hicks had a good 7 games. Now is the best time to DFA him because there's a chance that someone's going to pick up the remaining $27 million.
You think that was the thinking?
I mean, I guess there is a slight chance of that happening, but like, it's so slight, it's imperceptible. If no team wanted him this offseason at $30 million, which is what they're claiming, that's why he was still on the New York Yankees. Because if somebody wanted him this offseason, he would be on that team. Like, if it required the Yankees not paying down much of his contract, then he would have been a Dodger instead of Jason Hayward. Then he would have been a Rocky, because the Rockies do all sorts of dumb stuff. Maybe pair Hicks with Chris Bryant, and that's a guy on the right. Or he would have been a salary match for a big unwieldy deal that nobody else wanted. But the issue was that he had not played well since tearing his wrist sheath in 2021. A lot of the revisionist history on Hicks is going to be this guy always sucked. Not true. He was a genuinely great player in 2017 and 2018. If you don't want to go great, that's fine. But in terms of the advanced stats and in
very
terms
good
of
major leaguer
weighted performance, he's one of the best center fielders in 2017, 2018. 2019 starts taking steps back, ultimately plays through an elbow injury that requires Tommy John. The Yankees extended it before that season. So year one of the extension goes, But some of the most memorable Hicks moments of all time are also in that season. The Twins game where he homers to give him the lead late. Aroldis Chapman blows a save. Of course, he had long dives into the gap to save that game with 2 outs and bases loaded with Chad Green on the mound. And Max Kepler, his rumored replacement at the plate. We will not be getting Max Kepler. Spoiler alert, that's not happening anymore. And then the homer off Verlander, which, if you want to be a sourpuss about it, I get it. And I've kind of been a sourpuss about that moment too, because I do think there are some moments in this non-dynasty with no championships and no World Series appearances that young Yankee fans have blown out of proportion. Where, I mean, the Didi home run in the wild card game genuinely kickstarted that run, which was they were up 3-2 in the ALCS. I think it's completely fine to lionize that moment and DFI Didi Gregorius. But a 3-run home run off Verlander in a game where the Yankees barely hung on to send a series to Houston where they choked, is like one of the worst losses in team history. So that moment doesn't mean much to me. Shout out to Aaron Hicks for gutting through the injury, obviously. And I'll never forget that it happened, but I don't exactly go back and watch highlights of down 3-1 after losing back-to-back home games to the Houston Astros. Yankees had a golden opportunity on their plate in that 2019 ALCS, and they blew it. They blew it again, and then right after they were about to permanently blow it, Hicks stepped up and did some damage against a Verlander hanger. But he had his moments mostly in 17 and 18, some in 19. 2020, the advanced metrics say he was fine. If you watch the 2020 season, it was like a month and a half long, and he wasn't very good. And then 2021, though, he tears that wrist sheath, and it's basically all over for him, unfortunately. And that's what must objectively be said, right? Aaron Hicks Good player. Brian Cashman gets him to put pen to paper. What we heard was that there were no center fielders coming down the pike who would equate Hicks's production. So if you can get him for $10 million a year for this stretch, we get it. The counter argument is there were plenty of free agents available. Brandon Nimmo was a free agent. That was a pretty good one. You never know what the market's going to look like in 2022, in 2019. When you're signing Hicks, it's not easy to predict the market, and the Yankees did not do a very good job of it. Also, sure, you managed to get him for $10 million a year. That's a bargain. It's cheaper than what Nimmo's being paid. But these are the Yankees. They don't need to be finding bargains. They need to be acquiring the best talent. So there were several years there where you were like, actually, Hicks on his current contract is a pretty good value play. He's the 13th best player, and they're paying him like he's the 20th. And it's like, they could just pay the second best player money. They could pay Bryce Harper to play for the New York Yankees. Instead, they sort of found an inroad to paying Aaron Hicks less and selling it as we got 75% of the value of a better player for 30% of the cost. And it's like, all right, but unless you're invested in the Yankees saving 70% of the cost, then why should you really care? And sort of karmically, it all came clattering down at that same point. And for several years now, Hicks has been one of the worst regular players in baseball.
Yeah, and no one ever blamed Aaron Hicks for signing this deal, right? Or, I mean, maybe somebody did, but we didn't. 7-year deal is objectively crazy. Aaron Judge has a 9-year deal. He's one of the best players in baseball. If you're giving out a deal in excess of 5 years, it's got to be a cornerstone player, in my opinion. I'm sure a decent amount of people would agree with that. It's got to be someone who is not injury prone. Hicks, literally the definition of injury prone, especially before his arrival in New York. Dating back to his days in the minor leagues, when he was coming up with the Twins. And most of all, this was against Yankees policy. The Yankees don't do contract extensions. They famously don't do them. They famously make Aaron Judge wait until free agency.
Why talk to him? Why talk to Aaron Judge before you have to? It's not worth it. Don't do it. But
they picked the right Aaron.
Yeah.
But this is against Yankees policy. It's a deal where they're trying to get ahead of something they don't necessarily need to get ahead of. It's with an injured player who's entering his age at that point, 29 season. So then you're signing him through his mid-30s. I don't think Aaron Hicks had a whole ton of leverage in the negotiation process. So I don't know why the Yankees felt the need to coax him to sign a 7-year deal. Look, it is what it is. The man secured his money. This only became an issue when it was evident the relationship was deteriorating from every single angle, right? You had the body language. You had the commentary. Third game of the season, he's talking to the media about his role. Last year, he has the incident with the defensive miscue against the Rays and the fans booing him. Last year, heading into the season, he was all gung-ho about the Yankees' new "have some FU" slogan, and then it couldn't have been less underwhelming from him and the rest of the team. So that's when people started to say, you know what, just get the guy off the team. It's not working out. It's clearly eroding whatever other chemistry we have. There's no sense in having this be the headline, these be the headlines on blogs and the New York Post when we have Aaron Judge, we have Giancarlo Stanton, we have Garrett Cole. Why are we focusing on someone like Aaron Hicks getting booed by the crowd incessantly? So that was where the tipping point was for most fans. It's like, it's $30 million. Get rid of it. Save yourself this headache that's going to cost you so much in the media, and obviously cost somebody else his career. Hicks, this is not a place to kind of resurrect your career if you're not, a star player conditioned to this type of stuff. New York's a very difficult place to play. You saw what happened with Joey Gallo. I don't think we need to relive that, but to keep Hicks here for that much longer than they needed to, I think, was detrimental for everybody, most importantly, the person. So I'm glad that maybe he can get a fresh start now. I do wonder if someone picks that up, though. It's not the most money in the world, and I think there is theoretically a need for a switch-hitting outfielder who can play in multiple positions, but I'm not banking on it. If Brian Cashman actually thinks that, then poor guy.
Well, it's extremely silly because it's $30 million entering the season. The facts and figures that they owe him $27.6 million. And, you know, it's a good deal of money, but it's not 1 year. It's not a lump sum. You're spreading it across the next couple of years. So they owe him, I don't know, $10 million next year. They would have owed him $10 million to play for the team next year. And he played like shit this year and last year and the year before. So I would, if I'm going to have to pay him the money, I'd rather pay it to him for him to not be on the roster and just let him out, let him loose. He's been here long enough that the bad years are outweighing the good and have led people to forget that he ever was talented and effective, which is, again, an objective truth. If you were here in 2017 and 2018, you know it. They unlocked a former top prospect in baseball, turned him into a 25 homer a year bat with good defense for 20 games of John Ryan Murphy, their third catcher in 2015. It's a great trade, but then Cashman goes and extends him, and it's a terrible extension. Cash God, then not Cash God. And now what is it? What are we doing again? We're DFAing him. I'm looking at the Dodgers just because how often have the Dodgers picked up other teams' worst players in recent years? And spoiler alert, they haven't really paid off. That, like, Jason Hayward's hitting under 200, but they still claim that they're fixing people and they're solving people. And if you told the Cubs that after they non-tendered Jason Hayward, the best team in the National League is going to pick him right up, you would have laughed in their faces, but they did it. So they always need outfield help. They've been playing Mookie Betts in the infield. They've been playing Chris Taylor everywhere. Maybe, Aaron Hicks, again, not very good at this point in time, coming off his best week of the last 3 seasons, but maybe he's a Dodger. Either way, kind of crazy to even think about. And who's next? Like, can we wrap our minds around Josh Donaldson getting DFA'd in the not so distant future again? Because if we're doing this to get Greg Allen on the roster, it's not like they're going to easily jettison Greg Allen off the roster. They wanted Greg Allen for speed, versatility. He's mid, as the kids say, but he's certainly a better ball player than Aaron Hicks right now. So Giancarlo Stanton's going to come back at some point. Josh Donaldson's theoretically going to come back at some point, unless he sliced his finger off in this at-home accident. But you're going to have to get rid of Willie Calhoun at some point for these two people to come back, and Jake Bauers is going to have to get demoted. I don't think they're going to have to DFA Bauers to get him down there. I assume he's got options left, but I know Calhoun doesn't. It was a surprise to even get Calhoun through spring training. So now that they've eaten money once, you found an interesting tidbit that Donaldson thinks he's getting Ellsbury. He's on the Ellsbury plan. So, like, if they're going to pay him to not play, are we sure they wouldn't also DFA him? Because his money doesn't spread over the next couple of years. You get rid of Donaldson now, you don't see this money ever again. Hicks's goes through the next 2 seasons, so it's spread out a little bit in the financial windfall. They're paying Josh Donaldson a ton of money this year not to play, so, are you going to pay him a bunch of money to wedge him back onto the roster when he's healthy? Is he healthy now? We don't know.
And you missed all that time to get back on track, which Aaron Boone was so confident would happen. David Rifkin, who was at the welcome home dinner, I guess was last week or 2 weeks ago, said Donaldson said to me at the welcome home dinner that they have him on, quote, the Ellsbury rehab timeline. He's pretty sure they're paying him to stay away. I don't know how true that is, but we did write an article last week wondering if the Yankees were Jacoby Ellsburying him because of the injury at home. You look back on the rehab, right? He literally jogging to first base, gets injured. They rush him in a rehab assignment when they don't need to rush him back. He clearly wasn't ready.
He couldn't run. He could not run.
I mean, the team said he wasn't ready, or he said he was. Somebody said he wasn't ready, and he was playing. So it's like, okay, why is this happening? Then he gets set back even longer. Then you see him in the Yankees dugout. I don't know why he would be in the Yankees dugout instead of rehabbing, getting back up to speed with his injured hamstring. Then he cuts his hand. It was putting together an easy bake oven, perhaps, cuts his hand open.
Juggling knives, classic mistake.
Now we're here. It is worth wondering, but this is why I love Yankees Twitter. That's why I love Yankees Twitter. Cashman's trending again. Who knows why? It's either fuck Brian Cashman or Brian Cashman's a god at finding low-level pitching prospects. It's great. But of course, you have a tweet from a person who I don't care to expose, but the tweet is, Josh Donaldson, we all hate him. Historically bad trade by Cashman, but let's think practically. At third base is DJ. Be honest. 737 OPS, ... Bench has light-hitting IKF, Greg Allen, and Willie Calhoun. The depth of the Yankees is so bad, cutting Donaldson makes no sense. Okay. Cutting Donaldson makes no sense. So if you have a bench of IKF, Greg Allen, Willie Calhoun, you want to add another bat to the bench that doesn't hit in Josh Donaldson.
Or you want to bench? Do you want to bench DJ LeMahieu?
Yeah,
is that what you're saying?
Are you saying a 737 OPS from DJ LeMahieu is not enough? 737 OPS is fine. I think if you're OPSing in 720 or above and you're a starting player on a good team, that's probably okay. At this point, we've realized we're not getting the 2019-2020 DJ LeMahieu anymore, but his glove at third base is just as good as Donaldson. He actually gets clutch hits. He goes in spurts of being hot, and it's very helpful for the Yankees offense that can go quiet in those times and have these frustrating stretches where they are losing. You watch the series against the Reds this week. If the Yankees are a notch below where they were performing offensively, they lose two of those games, and you want to punch a hole in the wall. So now we're going to argue that DJ LeMahieu's offense isn't good enough, and welcoming back Josh Donaldson to the fold is going to somehow improve this offense. And what evidence do you have of that? Donaldson in 132 games last year, 682 OPS, 148 strikeouts, 94 OPS plus. He's needed the beginning of this season to get back on track, to ramp up. Now you're going to bring him back in June, mid-June, and he's going to take another month to get back on track because you don't just come back from a 2+ month layoff and start swinging the bat like it's the middle of an MVP season. And what's the conversation going to be at this point? Oh, they should have cut him 2 months ago when they had the chance, or when he was already injured and they had the opportunity, and now they have a crowded roster and it's going to be complicated. If the Yankees are even thinking about doing this, they should just do it. If fans are even questioning why they might do it, then I have no faith in anybody anymore intellectually, because this was something that everybody agreed upon. You look at the different, sects of Yankees Twitter, and there are people who will defend someone like Hicks, right? There are people who will defend Garrett Cole when he has a bad start. There are people who will defend Giancarlo Stanton when he's oft injured, and you always have the other ends of the spectrum of these arguments. Nobody has defended Josh Donaldson once. I think the only aspect that he's had in his corner when fans have defended him was like, well, his defense is really good, so that's great. But guess what? Now they've replaced the defense. You've seen DJ LeMahieu and IKF and even Oswaldo Cabrera at third for the last almost 2 months. Have you seen a difference? Not enough for me to be concerned. Not enough for me to now lobby. We need Josh Donaldson back. So let's figure this out, guys, because this was the one thing we were all seemingly unified on, and now we have to have a discussion.
He can't play the outfield. I don't think Willie Calhoun is like a long-term solution in the outfield, but you definitely need backups.
Lefty bat
play the outfield.
You need a lefty bat.
Oswaldo Cabrera. I mean, this is probably going to result in Oswaldo Cabrera getting demoted, to be perfectly honest with you, because he's not really contributing as much as he should be. And he's been an extremely effective utility piece even while he's not hitting, but Isaiah Kiner-Falefa is doing that. So that's apparently a left fielder now. Oswaldo Cabrera is OPSing 570. So the corresponding moves are probably demoting Bowers, who has shown a good deal so far. He's struggling, but that Oppo homer into the left center bullpen cannot be ignored as far as I'm concerned. And when he either gets benched or leads off. So what is it? Do the Yankees believe that Jake Bowers is one of their 4 best hitters, or do they believe he's demotable in favor of Josh Donaldson? And then they don't want to DFA Willie Calhoun and lose him. They don't want to get rid of Greg Allen. So then it becomes, all right, Oswaldo Cabrera, well, enjoy AAA. And then you get sent to this weird purgatory, and the same place where Oswald Peraza is and has been, honestly, since, you could say since opening day, but also since last year when he gets called up and they're like, all right, well, you could pitch hit down 12-0 in the 9th against the Rays. Best of luck. There's a lot of weird stuff going on, and Donaldson getting DFA'd, or now that I've seen Hicks get DFA'd, I feel like anything is possible here, but we'll have to figure it out. Oh, and by the way, the Yankees swept the Reds over the weekend. Worth talking about. 26 minutes into the podcast. They played baseball over the weekend. And they won all 3 of these games. The first one, pretty easy. They're working with like no bullpen here, but still, because Hamilton's down and they can't use these guys on back-to-back days. So every day you have 2 of Wandy and Holmes and King available if you're lucky, and Marinaccio. So every single day they're going to have to use like a Ryan Weber or Albert Abreu or Nick Ramirez comes in and gets a save on Friday, and somehow Friday was still pretty easy. They pull away late. They take a 3-2 game. They turn it into a 6-2 laugher. Clark Schmidt, not a cheater. Everybody wants to call Clark Schmidt a cheater. He had glove fuzz on his wrist. The umpire said, quote, "It wasn't sticky." So I don't really know what more you want from the umpire, unless you want to, you put your tinfoil hat on and say this is a conspiracy, a Yankees cheating culture or whatever. You know how quick the umpires are to say when someone's hand is sticky. Domingo Germán and Max Scherzer, the umpire said, these are the stickiest hands we've ever felt in our entire life. They love catching people. It's like their favorite thing to do. So if they said Clark Schmidt's hand was not sticky, then it probably was not sticky. And Clark Schmidt, my favorite tweet going around over the weekend was the Codify Baseball guys doing what percentage of Clark Schmidt curveballs were over 3,000 RPMs per start.
0?
And it was like 10%, 14%, 32%, 60%. So everybody was like, oh my God, the RPMs are going crazy. This man is clearly cheating. And then some people with brains went onto his Savant page and were like, he actually averages like 2,940 RPMs with his curveball and has obviously gotten it over 3K from time to time. So he also threw several over 3K after he washed his hands. He threw several under 3K with the black glove fuzz on his body. It's basically just a small, it basically indicates if you go from 2,950 to 3,000, it basically means like you got a little bit better. It's like you threw the ball a little bit harder. It just means you're getting a little better at baseball. It's not somebody jumping from 2,500 to 3K. But of course, that tweet was phrased in the most damning way possible to make it look like Clark Schmidt's a huge cheater. And that's really all I have to say about that. Now, if he gets caught with sticky stuff and he gets ejected, oops, I change my tone. But oops, I make a mistake. I have to go back and fix that. But Friday was pretty easy, all things considered, especially because it was a Clark start. The Reds jerseys, not very good. The super black jerseys with black letters and black fronts, it just looks like black. Not ideal. Saturday's game, they go down 4-1 early. Johnny Brito, not a big league starter at this point in time with his 2 pitches. He gets demoted after the game for Sevy on Sunday. And they come right back. They get in the 4-1 hole and IKF homers the very next inning. And they tie it up, hold them to extras. Look, am I celebrating an extra inning victory over the Cincinnati Reds?
Yeah.
Yeah, I am. Because they were 1-8 in road extra inning games over the past 2 years. And now they have an extra win under their belt. And they pulled away. And they won at 7-4. And Ryan Weber got the save. Again, major league competition, persevering on the road. Not an easy game. And the difference between winning 2 out of 3 and sweeping this is huge. Then they go out and win yesterday. Severino looks awesome. Hit 99 in his last inning of work. They are very judicious about 75 pitch limit. They pull him out of there right when he hits it. 1 out away from a victory. I'm sure he loved that. He doesn't seem to like anything that they do to him, so I can't imagine he was pumped. But the bullpen comes through again, and Albert Abreu, 2 1/3 shutout in this series. Very efficient, coming off finishing the job in the Toronto series with the best inning of his season in the game with no bullpen, where him and Weber ultimately shut the door. Who got the save? Oh, Marinaccio got a 7-pitch save in that game. They have no bullpen, and Abreu comes up huge 3 times in a 4-game span. So you know what? I still think he's DFAable by end of year, but he caught my eye this weekend. I just want to give him a little hat tip.
Yeah, should, because we've been on him and want him DFA'd, another one of the guys. And look, I'm sure he'll get DFA'd when he's performing well, because that's what the Yankees will do.
Maybe somebody will pick up Albert Abreu's expensive contracts if they DFA him at the right time.
2 ridiculous talking points from this series. One is from Yankees fans being dumb. The other is from everybody else being dumb. The sticky stuff. I mean, the sticky stuff was a problem when the usage of it became abusive. That was when the spider tack got introduced. This was when sticky stuff was always legal. And then teams like the Astros, sorry guys, pushed the boundaries, introduced the spider tack, kind of changed it's all in the numbers. It's all in the RPMs. It's in the velocity. You see it all there. So, and that was when there were no checks. There was no sticky checks. So you clearly could engage in nefarious behavior, get away with it, and nothing would happen. Now we're going to target two of the Yankees' worst starters, and we're going to claim that there is a cheating conspiracy because their hands were sticky using totally legal substances, which they were confirmed to be using. You look back at the Max Scherzer situation. He had rosin and sweat. The umps told him to wash it off with alcohol, and alcohol makes it more sticky. Yep. So he followed the directions and got more sticky. I don't know what Domingo Germán was doing, but Domingo Germán is now not unhittable because he has a little bit of a tacky substance on his hand, and Clark Schmidt has a 6 ERA. So I'm not entertaining any discussion here. If you're, I guess, bending the rules for 3 innings with 2 bad starters and you manage to end up taxing your bullpen and getting suspended, then that's worse for you than it is for the other team. Sorry, Kevin Gossman, you're not going to get to redo the 3 innings, and you should have just hit the 3 worst relievers in the Yankees bullpen. Would have been a lot easier for you. Secondly, Yankees fans. Again, Yankees cut the division lead, or the division deficit, down to 5.5 games. It was 10 about a week and a half ago. Yeah. And now everyone's like, well, don't get too ahead of yourselves. The Yankees beat a bad team over the weekend. Well, what is it? Because last year, 2 years ago, even 3 years ago, what were the complaints? The Yankees aren't getting the job done against inferior talent, and now it's putting them in a bind at the end of the year. What happened with the 2021 wildcard year? If they beat the fucking A's or the Orioles one more time, they're hosting the wildcard game. Could have a totally different outcome. Now, you beat the shit out of the A's. You handle business against the Reds with, like you just said, this bullpen. Albert Abreu, 4.24 ERA, 1.46 whip. Not good. That's a 5.13 FIP, even with that good performance as well. Ron Marinaccio, we love him. 4.09 ERA, 1.14 whip. Not the best. Jimmy Cordero was not expected to be this good. Ian Hamilton was not expected to be this good. He's also on the IL now. We're getting innings from Nick Ramirez, Ryan Weber, Greg Weissert's been here a few times. So it's a little bit underwhelming. Clay Holmes, for as locked in as he's also been, I don't know if the 9th inning is for him. So there's a lot of complications here, and I think Aaron Boone's navigated it very well, but I can't be having people now complaining that we're beating the shit out of teams that suck and that we shouldn't be excited about cutting the division lead down by 4.5 games after everyone was saying the division was lost at the beginning of May because the Rays were 27-7, winning at an ungodly pace, and now stuff's starting to normalize for the Rays a little bit. Not as much as we were hoping, but a little bit. And again, 5.5, much more manageable. And then, of course, all of you will complain about the Yankees almost shitting the bed on a 15.5 game lead last year, which we complained about too. And now we're saying that 10 games is impossible. Being back 5.5 after getting through a gauntlet of a schedule is nothing to be excited about. So I don't know. I don't know what we're doing here. But yeah, tell me.
I mean, when you say that the Yankees have cut a 10-game deficit to a 5.5-game deficit, you're not saying, and therefore they're going to win the AL East. You're just saying that you were saying they were dead a week and a half ago when they were 10 back, and now they're 5.5 back. They're not dead. You can cut 5 games in a week and a half. They can do it. Will they do it? I'm not going to forecast that. And I understand is that Russillo? Is that wimpy? And he's like doing half a hot take and then being like, but I'm not going to say that. I would never say that. I mean, like, I'm not confident enough in the Yankees to say they're going to win the AL East right now, but I am confident enough to say that a team with as much talent as the New York Yankees on this much of a heater, with the Rays still on a heater, can easily carve a 5.5 game lead up and make it disappear. They just did half of that in a week and a half. And, they don't play the Rays anymore because of the balanced schedule. So how are they going to do it in the head-to-head? They didn't cut any of it off in the head-to-head last week. They split in the 4-gamer. So they made up the 4.5 games without making any headway facing the actual team that they're chasing. So it's certainly possible. And if you say it's possible, that doesn't mean throw the parade. They did it. And that also doesn't mean the AL East winning the AL East is the be all end all. But it very, very frustrating conversations going on. There's somebody whose name I will not mention who, when you go to their feed, the Yankees have a 14-6 record in May. You would basically have no idea they'd won a game in May because every tweet is just about the worst things they do in every game. The only tweets from this weekend were about when Aaron Judge got sent prematurely and thrown out at the plate and when Johnny Brito was struggling. The Yankees won all 3 of those fucking games. Yeah. And there was not a single tweet mentioning that they did anything positive. That's no way to live your life. I'm sorry.
No, really bad. Get some help. We'll help you. We'll try. People see, I know, like you look at the schedule too. It's like we made up all those games without facing the Rays. The Rays also had the easiest schedule to start the year out of anybody. 19 of their games were played against very bad teams. You want me to go down the list? Tigers, Nationals, yes. A's, Reds, White Sox for 7 games. And then they caught the Pirates just as the Pirates are on the downswing. I'm not saying
they got the Red Sox. They got the Red Sox.
They got the Red Sox
in their season.
Yeah, they got the Red Sox in those 4 games when they're pitching and their pitching was decimated. The bats were not anywhere close to being heating up, and the Rays went 17-2 in those games. Props to the Rays. They beat the shit out of bad teams and they put themselves in a great position. Now the Yankees will, have their stretch of fortuitous play fairly soon. And we'll see what they can do with it. And the schedule is not going to be that easy for the Rays moving forward. We gave props and we gave a little farewell to Hicks. Made everybody remember that he wasn't as bad as he's been. Albert Abreu, clap, clap. Aaron Boone gets my claps. I don't care if you don't like him. We're frustrated with Aaron Boone a lot. We do not hide that. I'm sure he knows it if he's ever read a Yanks Go Yard article. But 14-6 in May. A lot of his last bullpen mistake was now over a week ago. It was bringing Abreu in with the bases loaded at home against the Rays in that finale. Promptly gave up a grand slam. We all knew it was going to happen. Since then, he's been navigating this stretch with obviously a lot of guys coming in and out of the lineup, experimenting with different people up top. You got Jake Bowers, Willie Calhoun, IKF getting regular reps. They're all kind of fitting into their roles and delivering when they can. You can't ask for every player who's in the starting lineup to be an all-star. And then you have the starting rotation. Nestor Cortez, 5.21 ERA, 4.51 whip or FIP. He's not having a great year. Domingo Germán causing trouble again. Also has been bad for half, good for half. Okay, Clark Schmidt, 6 ERA, and Johnny Brito before he was optioned. That's 4 bad starters, really, or four starters who at this point you're saying, okay, I don't know if they're going to give me a chance to win today. And that's been the story for most of them. And then you're navigating that with a bullpen who we had just mentioned, Albert Abreu, Ron Marinaccio, Ryan Weber, Jimmy Cordero, all these, some of these guys have exceeded expectations. Some of them are experiencing a regression like Marinaccio. But all the buttons have been pressed properly over the last 8 days, I would say. And I think that any manager's job is tough when your team is not scoring runs, right? Every decision is even more that was the problem with 2021. The team wouldn't score. Boone's job every night was exponentially more difficult because he had to make the right decision or else the team was absolutely fucked. And now, team's scoring some runs. They're getting hits at opportune times. They're fighting back. All of a sudden, the job becomes a little bit easier. Not every decision is under a microscope. Not every decision or failed decision is on the back page. We don't have to be complaining about Clay Holmes loading the bases yesterday and making that game against the Reds a little bit of a tight butt cheeks one. Aaron Boone's done a great job over this last week. And I mean, honestly, for the past 20 games, I think that for the absolute most part, your manager is not going to be perfect. For us to be 14-6 with what we have right now, obviously props to the players for stepping up, but also Aaron Boone, who famously does not press the right buttons, has been putting guys in good situations, and I think that he deserves some credit for that.
I agree, and I think best case scenario, look, you keep Clay out of the 9th yesterday, maybe you flip-flop him and Peralta, but at the same time, 3-run lead in the 9th inning, top of the Reds lineup coming up. I think I'm fine with my closer in there. I think Clay Holmes should be able to hold a 4-1 lead against the Reds. And I think if he doesn't, I guess the criticism gets pretty loud. Maybe we have an unpleasant 24 hours.
It's
Clay's fault.
It's not Boone's fault.
No, it is. Especially since his recent run of form, a lot of the good stuff has been in the ninth inning. You can, people are, the next time he struggles in the ninth inning, people are going to say, well, that wouldn't happen if he was pitching the seventh inning. And who knows? It's a fun argument because you'll just never know. You're allowed to say that because you'll never have the information because that didn't happen. So you'll just be able to say that. And then if he struggles in the seventh, you can be like, man, something out of whack with Clay. They should bring him back in the ninth. He really had that mojo going as a closer. Like, you can always say whatever you want to say. And you'll be able to speak in hypotheticals forever. And if you're that kind of person who reads the tea leaves and knows the future as well as the past, and you happen to live in New Jersey and Connecticut, we have an awesome limited time promo for new DraftKings users, only new users. Deposit, place a $5 or more wager on any sport to get $150 instantly added to your account in bonus bets, win or lose. All you have to do is use our code YanksGoYard at sign up to redeem. That's at sign up. When you're creating your account, drop our code YanksGoYard. That's how you're able to help out the podcast. It's a great way to support the show. So if you do not have a DraftKings account yet, I might do it. Do us a solid, sign up with the code YanksGoYard and place that first bet. New customers only, 21 plus, physically present in New Jersey and Connecticut. When you said this earlier, I thought you were going to say 21 plus and physically imposing for some reason. I've heard this over and over again, and I still thought you were talking like, hey, if you're large and over 21, please gamble responsibly. Especially you big folks, gamble responsibly. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER in New Jersey or 888-789-7777 in Connecticut. Valid one offer per customer. Minimum $5 deposit, $5 wager required. Rewards issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets and expire 7 days after being awarded. See full terms at DraftKings.com. Couple funsies to wrap up. This isn't even really, we don't even really have to talk about this, but if the bullpen is going to be this weird with like Ryan Weber and Nick Ramirez, I always want to call him Nick Martinez too. He's not the Padres reliever. He's Nick Ramirez. If it's going to be this weird, why haven't we seen Matt Krook yet? Who's gone 15 and a third innings and struck out 29 people with a 1.17 ERA. I need to look at the splits just to confirm this is still accurate. Yep, still accurate. So he pitched again over the weekend. Matt Krook against lefty batters. He has faced, let's see, he's walked 6 of them. So that's not ideal. But that he's retired 18 of them. So he's faced 24 lefty batters, and they are 0 for 18 against him with 6 walks and 15 strikeouts. He has still yet to allow a hit to a left-handed batter this year. Oh, he must be getting killed by righties. Not so. 9 and a third innings, 5 hits. He walked 6 of them too. He hit 1 of them and he struck out 14. That's a one whip against lefties, 1.18 against righties. Righties hitting 156 off him. Lefties hitting 0.00. He's got a 1.17 ERA. I'm not going to sit here looking in the face and say the walks are great. The walks are not great. He walks, guys. He's walked 12 and 15 in the third innings. It's Ron Marinaccio, who's kind of the definition of elite reliever from time to time, but with a significant walk problem, has walked like 10 in 25 innings. It's not the same. It's quite bad. Mm-hmm. That said, 6 hitless innings against lefties combined is very impressive, and I'd rather see him than Ramirez up here. Although I know Ramirez can take care of a baseball game. He can put a baseball game to sleep. He doesn't play with his food like the other Yankee relievers who I screamed at all Oakland series. You got a 4-run lead in the ninth against the Reds. I know he's going to be able to get the job done and eventually put this game to sleep. But Krook has higher upside for sure.
100%. The walks in command are probably what's holding them back if they're going to start somebody's service time clock. I think here's where I'll defend the Yankees. If they're not sure he's ready, don't start the service time clock and then do the classic jerk him between MLB and AAA. Like I think they maybe got a little ahead of themselves with Weissert, maybe, or maybe Weissert just kind of couldn't handle. I don't know. I don't know what the deal is with Greg. I hope he's figuring things out, but maybe that was the cautionary tale that the Yankees kind of learned from last year. Right now, they're getting through what they have to get through. And if they can buy some more time with Krook and have him pitch a little bit more efficiently in terms of location against minor league pitching, then they can call him up and feel comfortable about it. Because the last thing you want is shuttling this guy back and forth between the Bronx and Scranton. Like, we've seen so many nightmare stories with that. So I'm on board with giving him a chance, but I'm also understanding if the Yankees are going to be a little hesitant here because I don't know why or how, but the bullpen situation has worked. If, Nick Ramirez, not the most impressive, but 2.45 ERA, 3.84 WHIP, and 7 1/3. That's okay to me. And he's doing it against major league hitting. Jimmy Gordero keeps pitching like he's pitching. They let Ron Marinaccio work out these kinks. They keep using up Albert Abreu as best they possibly can until his time is over. I get it. I get what they're trying to do here. So I would like to see Matt Krook. Those numbers are unbelievable. Yes, the lefties can't touch him, but you know what happens when people come to MLB. It's a little bit of a different story. So I'll back the Yankees here, but I do want to see the guy. I think we should see him this year. I don't know necessarily think we need him in May. That's where I'm going.
I agree with that. And look, I know myself, there's nothing I hate more than these relievers coming up and playing with their food. The last guy in your bullpen probably shouldn't be a rookie. Because that guy's job is to come into games you lead 10-2 in the 7th and finish the fucking game. Yeah. And that's what Nick does. Like, I know he's going to do that. I know Albert Abreu is going to do that too. I don't think it's going to be fun. But when we criticize Albert Abreu, it's because he's coming into a 2-2 game with the bases loaded. It's not because he was asked to throw 3 innings against a bad team in garbage time, and the Yankees, he gives up a solo home run in the 8th, and they win 10-3. Like, I know Albert Abreu can do that. I don't want to use Matt Krook in that way. I want him to come in and have high leverage opportunities. That's what Weissert was supposed to do and was unable to do. So, I think you're right, but just giving everybody the heads up that, like, oh, by the way, he's like buzzsawing people. And then before we go, it's just fun to talk about the Yankees rivals. It's fun to talk about them when they line up with the podcast day and they're like doing bad things. Shout out to the Red Sox almost took a series in San Diego over the weekend, or they did take a series, but they almost swept it in San Diego. The Padres have been real bad lately, but yesterday the Red Sox lost because Corey Kluber was dreadful, and the Padres, all their runs scored. Rougned Odor cleared the bases with a 3-run double in the first inning to make it 4-0, and then Matt Carpenter hit a 2-run shot. The Padres headline: the Padres have been waiting for an offensive breakthrough. Rougned Odor supplied it. You can't be doing that. Rougned Odor is extremely not good at this point in time. So you can't be allowing him to supply an offensive revival. Odor and Carpenter yesterday went 3 for 7 with a dinger and 7 RBI. So shout out. That's all 7. It's a 7-0 win, and they knocked in 7 runs. But more importantly, the Blue Jays, what day is it? It's Monday, May 22nd. When did we stop playing them? Thursday, the 18th. They're still going wah baby formula on us. Kevin Gossman over the weekend. We laughed at the Blue Jays pregame crew saying that the Yankees owe the Blue Jays 3 innings because you played 6 innings of correct baseball and had Domingo Germán throw at the start of you owe us 3 innings. And we said, does anybody actually think like this? Like, does anybody who's not doing like a hot take show in the heat of the moment think like this? And then Kevin Gossman said, oh yeah, in our mind, they owe us 3 innings because that's Domingo Germán through 3 innings. What are we talking about? You can hit Germán. You can hit him. You are allowed to hit him. And Kevin Gossman's like, Vlad swung at a pitch in the other batter's box. That doesn't usually happen. Maybe you don't. Maybe you don't swing at a pitch in the other batter's box. And regardless, the concept of owing the Blue Jays a restart because 3 innings were thrown by Domingo Germán. Games are 9 innings long. You tied the game. None of the sequence of events happens if Germán isn't thrown out of the game. You get to face the bullpen for 6 innings and you take advantage and you tie the game. Then your pitcher throws a cement mixer to Aaron Judge and you can't get any hits with the bases loaded against Ryan Weber. And that's why you lost. You cannot be going back to the first 3 innings, and you certainly can't be going back to the first 3 innings of Tuesday's game on Saturday. That's how loser teams become losers. And oh, by the way, the Blue Jays are in last place now. And oh, by the way, John Schneider, he of Shut Up Fat Boy fame, forgot the rules of baseball and went to go talk to Alek Manoah to talk him through a jam on Saturday. Only problem is you can't talk to a pitcher twice in an inning without taking him out. the clip of the Blue Jays announcers being like, and they're going to yank Manoah from this game. Oh, wait, no, John Schneider, he doesn't know. Oh, he doesn't want to, but he has to.
John
That's
Schneider.
such a bad break. Yeah, John Schneider has no idea what he's just done. Ignited. You have to know. And the announcers just being like, oh, he was just going to give him a talking to, and now he has to take him out of the game. That's a blunder. It certainly is. And that's a little bit of a karmic payback. The Blue Jays lost in extras on Saturday. They lost 8-3 in extras to the Orioles on Sunday.
They get swept?
Someday, oh yeah. Someday there may come a time when I'm like, oh man, what a bummer the Jays weren't able to keep things tighter with the Orioles, because now we actually have to compete with the Orioles. Right now, though, I'm laughing. Very funny.
The Jays distracted themselves into a pretzel over all the stuff that had happened last week, concerned themselves with all of the things winning teams don't concern themselves with, and now they're enjoying the consequences.
Oh, and Kevin Gossman also said something like, oh, there's nothing you can do about this, but we obviously know the strategies teams use to, you in football, you can ice a kicker, and in baseball, you can do what the Yankees did. Talking about the extra long fourth inning that he had to sit through, an inning in which the umpires delayed the game to kick Domingo Germán out of the game. They planned that ejection. Is that what you're saying? And then the inning took even longer because Ian Hamilton got injured. So I don't know if Kevin Gossman is saying they faked the Ian Hamilton injury, but he's on the injured list now. So if they faked it, that's pretty far to go to throw off Kevin Gossman, who's apparently the center of the universe. Ian Hamilton is missing for like 30 games now, presumably just to rub it in Kevin Gossman's face.
I mean, the couple of things that come to mind for the Blue Jays is they willingly downgraded the last few years. We said at the time, even though Marcus Semion's contract given to him by the Rangers was a little bit pricey, it only ended up being $25 million a year. And that was for a top 3 AL MVP candidate for, 2 out of the previous 3 seasons. Interesting stat that came across my desk on Twitter this morning. Twitter was like, hey, we got one for you from the tweet desk. Marcus Semien has missed 8 games since the start of 2019. Only one player over that span has produced more WAR than him. That would be Aaron Judge. What did the Blue Jays do? They let Semien walk, understandably. You don't want to pay all that money, but you replace him with a combination of Whit Merrifield and Cavan Biggio. Cavan Biggio has a 20 OPS plus this year and a 191 on-base percentage. Whit Merrifield is obviously playing some outfield, but he fills in at second when needed. Been below average. He is not the same player he was in Kansas City. And then you obviously go back to the Varsho trade. Dalton Varsho, our friend, 78 OPS plus, killed every rally in that Yankee series. And we talked about the Diamondbacks trade last week. If this team had Gurriel Jr., and I even would say if you had Teoscar Hernandez here, it would be better offensively, and you would have fewer problems. Kevin Kiermaier somehow playing out of his mind, 141 OPS plus, 317 average. Historically, he's never done that. And George Springer's playing terribly. And they added Brandon Belton to the mix, who's playing okay, but that's not a championship team. So, or that's not a championship move, I should say.
They moved Belt up to the cleanup spot yesterday and demoted Varsho to 7th.
That's where he has to be batting at this point.
Yeah. John Schneider said at the same time, it takes a little bit of pressure off Varsho. Yahoo Sports today publishes revisiting the Blue Jays trade for Dalton Varsho. Varsho has struggled so far this season, while Lourdes Gurriel Jr. and Gabriel Moreno are loving life in Arizona. That's their subhead. I just can't, the incredulousness at Blue Jays fans who couldn't even believe that someone might say that a trade would not be a win for them. What are you talking? How could Dalton Varsho possibly? There's no way. The predictive metrics have never been wrong. Ever. What are you talking about? And then, oh, look, he's hitting barely over 200, and he's like 3 for his last 35. And again, you can't make a judgment on May 22nd, but you can just remind everybody that it's possible he's not a 6-WAR player.
He's been playing the outfield very well. He had a nice stretch in the beginning of the month, but yeah, I I really think the Blue Jays, I think them, when they let Marcus Semien walk, I let out a sigh of relief. Obviously, they've done a good job. You know, I think getting Gossman and Bassett in this rotation have been awesome for them. But again, to assume like Alejandro Kirk and Danny Jansen would still continue that output, crazy. And what else? Who else was there? Well, Matt Chapman's actually playing really well too. So yeah, I don't know. This team has the players, the stats are there to kind of support it, but could say the manager is the problem, which is what they thought last year when they fired Charlie Montoya, kicked him out the door for John Schneider, who was apparently more of a player favorite. Now it seems like John Schneider is having his assistants take care of his dirty work for him when they're all yelling at the Yankees dugout and yelling at Luis Rojas. And then he doesn't know the rules of baseball. So good luck to the Jays. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, that's a shame. And for all of Anthony Volpe's early warts, I'd still rather have him on the New York Yankees than have him be in Arizona and have Dalton Varsho playing left field for the New York Yankees. Sorry. Varsho on pace for like a 3.5 WAR season, and like all of that is defense. It's got to be a little more evenly split. But hey, what do I know? I'm just somebody who's been saying this for like 3 months, and so have you. And we're going to keep saying it until we have to amend the take. That is it for this edition of the Yanks Go Yard podcast, the final Yanks Go Yard podcast about Aaron Hicks, probably, hopefully. Josh Donaldson, you next? I don't know, but we'll find out soon. You can find us on all podcast platforms, Apple, Google, Spotify, the very best of the best, whatever podcast platform you prefer. We are on it. We're also live on YouTube Mondays and Thursdays, 2 o'clock Eastern time, and other times if we got it. It would have been great if the Aaron Hicks DFA was not Saturday at 2. We probably would have done an emergency Aaron Hicks pod, but happy to talk to you folks today. Until next time, I'm Adam Weinrib alongside Thomas Carinante. You can find me on Twitter at Adam Weinrib. Thomas Carinante, where can the people find you?
I'm at Tommy's_takes. You can find the both of us at the official Yanks Go Yard Twitter account at Yanks Go Yard FS. Head on over to yanksgoyard.com. We got our bylines there, plenty of content. You guys are reading this Kevin Gossman article is blowing up right now about him complaining. Maybe it's just all 122 of Kevin Gossman's burners reading it and commenting negatively in the comment section. We will see, though. Yeah, everyone, until next time, we'll talk to you on Thursday. Enjoy the day off. It's been, 18 days, 17 days, something like that?
Yeah, May 4th to May 22nd. We those are 2 off days. We played from the 5th through the 21st. It's going to feel great being able to breathe tonight. We got the O's coming in this week. That's a real series. That team is right on the Rays' heels. And if you think the Yankees can't shave off their 5.5 game deficit, you think the O's can't shave off their 2.5 game deficit, you think the AL East is already done? Cool. Great. Don't watch, but there's definitely a race still to be run here.
There is, folks. We'll talk to you again Thursday live right here at 2 p.m. Eastern. See ya.
We'll be here. Will you?